truly believe that we can know our highest self by training a dog with kindness and working through the challenges, even though we don't want them. We don't want our dog to be reactive when we walk down the street. We don't want our dog to, be a resource guarder or whatever that problem is. That we learn a lot about ourselves by working through the challenges of our dogs.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of sort of Buddhist principles that pop in my mind, when I hear you speak, like that the voice does the Buddha's work, but also that we have voluntarily chosen, to be reborn. This is woo-woo now. This is not, Buddhism, but we voluntarily have chosen
That
to
should be
be
the
born
next webinar, a
into.
big woo webinar for dog trainers.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. Exactly. So, so the thing with the accepting the challenges, or even, like the Buddha, in Buddhism, we say that you've chosen, to encounter these challenges now so that you can overcome them, not only for your own benefit, but also for the benefit of others. So now if somebody, a dog guardian, is now stuck, with all those, it can be really horrible, your life can shrink and whatever if you have to deal with reactive behavior in your dog. I mean, in your opinion, what's the hardest thing about that?
Like you said, your world can shrink, and you look for, I think the evolutionists, people look for the quick fix to, is there a tool I can use? Is there, a treatment I can, is there and really it's a journey. And so, I mean, I think if people realize that a lot of reactivity is brought on by what happens when the dog voices an opinion. So a lot of reactivity is, it's just another complication of the last reactivity, the last reactive moment. There's so much. I mean, having worked through it with Issy, and I did all the dog training. I think she was about 5 months old when I was dealing with her resource guarding, and just attacking any dog that was new. So I dog trained all that for, weeks and weeks and weeks. And we got it to a place where it was so much better. And then it would be a different reactivity to people she didn't like, men or children or any kind of stranger. So I kept dogs, and I realize now, like, and this is the thing that I share with everybody, I believe there is a massive nutritional component to all reactive dogs. And you can't dog train that. And so the people that continue to try, they continue to get these incremental changes in their dog's behavior as they pour hours and hours and hours into it. Those incremental changes can become astronomical jumps if you consider things that aren't dog training. I never actually train eye contact.
I know.
So I just train a connection, and the eye contact kind of comes organically.
By itself. Yeah.
So with Vissy, that was one of the games that I played with her as well. And this was long before I knew I had to change her food. But I would go to the path where there would be people or dogs, and I would stay way back and behind, and I would have her orient with my chin target. And then I would say her name and feed her so that she learned to look for what's coming and then orient back to me. And so I don't demand eye contact. I want my dogs to know, okay, he's 50 feet away now, and I'm going to orient to you, but I just want to see where he is now. Yeah, okay, I'm going to orient. I don't ever want them like locking and staring. I want them to orient and know you're still safe and we're all good. And if I see they're walking towards us, I'm not going to leave my dog in that position where she's going to have to deal with the hormonal responses she's having to that oncoming traffic. So I'm going to acknowledge, hey, that dog made a right turn and they are now coming in our direction, and they'll turn it into a game for us to run up the hill and let's do something else. Let's get further away. And then very, very quickly, well, not very quickly, it seemed like forever for me, but a matter of months, she could be right at the side of the road, or the side of the path where the dogs were coming and going. And it would have would have been so much easier for me had I had known the nutritional component of stress and fear and anxiety in dogs.
Yeah, that's definitely a big puzzle. So we have some speakers on that too, which we're excited to talk to. Okay, so what do you have sort of, I don't know, 3 or 5 top tips for someone who is struggling with reactive behavior in their dogs? What would you, if somebody comes to you tomorrow, what would you tell them to do?
Well, I guess there's so many different factors: the age of the dog, and how long the rehearsal of the behavior has been going on, and what has happened as in, what have your responses been to the emotions of the dog. I think the first thing that I would help them to understand is that it is emotions. And, if they were my age and my gender, then it would be easy to help them understand what perimenopausal women or a menopausal woman doesn't always have control of their emotions. And we shouldn't be punished
So
for
true.
that. And to have that same kind of empathy for our dogs and know they're doing their best. And so what can we do to bring more joy into their life? Like, if you just keep it super simple. I don't know that, in an ideal world, they'd be in one of our recolors programs or homeschool the dog, where they're learning games. And that is connecting with the dog on a level that is fun and gives, hormonal releases that are positive and leave them feeling good about life. I think dog training done just with food, without changing the arousal state of the dog, they don't get to experience that. And so I'm not saying it couldn't work. I'm just saying that this, I know I've seen, the thousands and thousands of people we've had through recolors. I've seen the changes in dogs, and dogs who previously would have, turned and lunged. I mean, Barbara, we see those letters, practically every week we get one from a student whose dog was reactive. And just by playing the games now, the dog is just oriented to them, so, and I don't want to sound dismissive about serious reactivity or dog to dog aggression problems, because there are severe levels. And I'm not going to assume that every dog training problem is going to be fixed if you join recolors. I'm just sharing that is a place of connection, and we have to grow that dog's confidence, and we have to give that dog healthy outlets, and we have to be their advocate and not put them into situations where they will go over threshold, and they will be forced to defend themselves because they feel that they're in a situation that they can't get out of. So, I don't know if I've done 5 or more than 5, but I think the biggest thing is you have to really become curious about what's going on, and you have to not, I see the words, and I know you do too, see the words overwhelmed and frustrated, and it's like, again, what can you do to change what you are in control of? And none of us are ever in control of our dogs, no matter how much we'd like to pretend we are. We are control of our own responses and our own reactions and emotions to those, to what we see happening. And it's our interpretation of what we see happening. I would tell Vissy when she would be, at her worst, I love you. I know it's going to be okay. And we're going to find some answers. And I would get her out of those situations, and I would journal. So you can't solve these emotional problems without journaling and knowing what are the triggers. And then setting yourself up to just, keep it. I had no doubt that I was going to find solutions for this. I didn't know how long it would take. And I had to embrace that this is a different journey that I had planned with my, incredibly well-bred agility puppy, but that it was, it didn't mean I was a failure or she was a failure, or our time together was less than it could have been. And I think those are a lot, especially in the sport of dog agility. If you come in and you have big plans, it's easy to take on, it's easy to take on the events as you've done something wrong, or the dog is doing something wrong, or you're a failure, or this isn't what you had planned, and look where I am now. So, I think you have to give yourself grace before you can give your dog grace. and then you can know that it's a terrible thing, but I don't think there's any dog and handler that is judged worse than a dog who has emotional outbursts in public.
Mm.
You are probably a bad dog trainer. You're probably doing all the wrong things. If you don't correct the dog, or you don't shout at them, or you don't smack them around, you're not a good dog trainer, and you're probably a horrible person. And so you got to find a way to pump your own tires, because society isn't going to do it for you. So you've got to find a way to keep in a positive frame of mind, and thank people for their input, and just get out of there and find your own people that vibe with you and understand that it's not the dog's fault.